The tray of untouched food sat on the edge of the bed like an accusation. Cold eggs, untouched toast, a glass of juice with a thin layer of film on top. Michael stood in the doorway, fingers digging into the frame, watching his deaf son stare at the wall as if the world beyond it were more bearable than this room. Liam's small hands were still, his eyes distant, and for the third day in a row, he hadn't taken a single bite. "The boy needs to eat," the doctor murmured behind Michael, voice low but edged with impatience. "We can't postpone nutrition support much longer. If this continues, I'll have to insist on hospitalization." Michael didn't answer, his jaw locked, throat burning with all the words he didn't know how to say. He just watched Liam, hoping, absurdly, that his son would look up, see him, and choose the food. But Liam never turned his head. His gaze remained fixed, haunted, on the same crack in the far corner of the room's ceiling. "He understands, you know," the doctor added, softer now. "Even if he can't hear you, he feels your silence as much as he would your voice." Silence, the mansion's favorite language. Michael's eyes flickered to the hearing aid resting on the nightstand. Powered off, abandoned. No one had convinced Liam to wear it in days. Not the specialists, not the speech therapist, not the parade of nannies who came and went like expensive, temporary furniture. No one reached him, not even his own father. The doctor left with a professional nod and a promise to send a report. When the door clicked shut, the room felt even larger, emptier. Michael finally took a step inside, his Italian shoes quiet on the thick carpet, and sat carefully on the edge of the bed, careful not to crowd his son. "Liam," he said, voice rough from disuse, "you have to eat, buddy." The boy didn't react. No flinch, no glance, no sign he even knew Michael was there. But his fingers, barely noticeably, began to tap against his leg, a tiny, frantic pattern. Tap, 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 tap. Michael glanced at it, a frown pulling between his brows. But to him it was just restless fidgeting, one more sign of anxiety he didn't know how to fix. He reached out, hesitated, and then gently touched Liam's arm. The boy flinched as if burned, his shoulders tensed, breath shortening, eyes squeezing shut. Michael froze, the rejection slicing sharper than any insult. Slowly, he withdrew his hand, fingers curling into a fist. "Okay," he whispered, more to himself than to Liam. "Okay, I'll figure this out." By the time he stepped out into the corridor, the house had already swallowed the moment. The Davenport mansion loomed in polished marble and glass, chandeliers glittering over floors that never had toy cars scattered on them anymore. It was a museum of a life that had ended with his wife's last breath. Everything immaculate, everything in its place, everything wrong. Two housemaids whispered near the staircase, clutching feather dusters like shields. When Michael passed, their voices dropped, but not quickly enough. "Won't eat, won't look at anyone. Gives me chills," one said. "He's not just deaf, he's broken. Poor thing," the other murmured, though there was more unease than compassion in her tone. Michael's gaze snapped to them, and both maids stiffened. He didn't say anything, didn't trust his voice not to tear the air, but his stare was enough to send them scattering down the corridor, murmuring apologies. Their footsteps faded, leaving him alone with his anger and his helplessness. He retreated to his office, the place where he still knew what to do. The room smelled of leather, ink, and old coffee. Familiar, controlled. On the wall, framed news articles chronicled his rise. Investments, expansions, awards. On the desk, a photo of his late wife smiled from a silver frame, forever holding a baby Liam who still laughed and reached out for the camera. "I can fix numbers," Michael muttered, collapsing into the leather chair. "I can fix companies on the verge of collapse, but I can't fix my own kid." His phone lit up with another email from the agency. "We have a new candidate, experienced in cleaning, discreet, humble, available to start today." He almost ignored it. Another stranger to walk through the revolving door of his grief. But the image of Liam's untouched breakfast pulled at him. Fine. If he couldn't fix his son's silence, he could at least make sure the house worked. Order, routine. No more careless staff whispering in hallways. He replied with one word: send. On the other side of the city, in a bus that rattled with every pothole, Faith clutched a worn canvas bag to her chest and reread the address scribbled on a folded paper. Davenport Mansion. Even the name looked expensive. She bit her lip, trying to smooth the nervous tremor in her hands. She had cleaned small apartments, noisy motels, a restaurant kitchen that never truly slept, but never a mansion, never a place people talked about in bus conversations, lowering their voices as if wealth could hear them. All she knew was that the pay could cover the rent, her mother's medicine, and maybe, if she was very careful, a few second-hand books for the kids at the community center where she sometimes volunteered. Faith watched the city blur past the fogged window, her reflection small and tired in the glass. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, uniform freshly washed. Even if the fabric was fading, she smoothed the front of her blouse, whispered to herself, "Just do what you always do. Work in silence. Look carefully. Be useful." The bus driver shouted her stop. When Faith stepped off, she sucked in a breath. Ahead, iron gates rose like something out of a movie, wrapping around an enormous estate. The guard at the gate eyed her with practiced indifference before checking his clipboard. "Name?" he asked. "Faith," she said softly. "Faith Carter. I'm here about the cleaning position." He gestured to the security camera above the gate, murmured something into his radio. Then the heavy iron slowly groaned open. Faith's heart hammered as she stepped through, following the path up the long driveway, shoes crunching on gravel. The mansion seemed to grow larger with every step, its windows like watchful eyes. At the main entrance, the housekeeper was waiting, tall, severe, with iron gray hair pulled into a tight bun and a clipboard clutched like a shield. "You're late," she said, even though Faith was exactly on time. "I'm sorry," Faith replied instinctively, then flinched at the sound of her own voice echoing in the cavernous entry hall. Marble floors gleamed beneath her, chandeliers casting warm light that somehow made the place feel colder. "I am Mrs. Hollis," the housekeeper said briskly. "You will report to me. The rules are simple. No questions, no wandering, no engaging Mr. Davenport unless he speaks to you first. You clean what I assign. You do not touch personal items. You stay invisible." Invisible, Faith swallowed. It was a word she knew well, one that had wrapped itself around most of her life. "Yes, ma'am," she said. Mrs. Hollis studied her for a moment, eyes scanning the inexpensive shoes, the calloused hands, the tired but attentive gaze. Something like skepticism crossed her face. "We've had difficulties with staff here," she said carefully, "particularly around the child. You are not here to interact with him. Your tasks will be in the lower floors, common areas, and, occasionally, the nursery when needed. Do your work. Keep your head down. Understood?" "The child?" Faith asked before she could stop herself. "Is he okay?" Mrs. Hollis's jaw tightened. "It's not your concern. The boy is complicated, deaf, difficult, and fragile. Just stay out of his way. It's better for everyone." Faith's chest tightened. Deaf, difficult, fragile. She heard the same tired labels people used whenever someone didn't fit neatly into their expectations. At the community center, she had seen children written off as problematic, when all they needed was someone to sit down at their level and truly see them. "Understood," she murmured, even though something inside her whispered, "No, it's not." They walked through the mansion, Mrs. Hollis listing routines and schedules in clipped tones. Faith listened carefully, absorbing details the way she always did. Where dust gathered most often, which floorboards creaked, which corners the vacuum never quite reached. She noticed more than she let on. The faint smell of disinfectant that clung stronger near one particular hallway, the way some of the portraits had been removed from the walls, leaving pale rectangles behind. When they turned a corner near the second-floor corridor, Faith saw him for the first time. Liam stood at the end of the hallway, near a large window that framed the gray winter sky. He was small, thinner than a boy his age should be, shoulders hunched as if trying to fold into himself. His hair fell into his eyes, and he wore a long-sleeved shirt despite the warmth of the house. His bare feet pressed against the cold hardwood floor like he was anchored there. His eyes were what stopped Faith in her tracks. Big, dark, and old. Too old. He watched the light flicker against the glass, fingers twitching by his sides in those tiny, quick movements that meant something she didn't yet understand. He didn't seem to notice them approaching, or if he did, he didn't show it. "Keep moving," Mrs. Hollis ordered under her breath. "Don't stare." But Faith couldn't help it. For a fraction of a second, Liam's gaze shifted from the window and met hers. Just a flicker, just long enough for her to see the raw, wild panic behind the numbness. as if he were silently screaming words no one else could hear. Faith's heart stumbled. Then he looked away, back to the window, back to the crack in the glass where tiny lines spread like a frozen lightning bolt. "Someone should fix that window," Faith whispered without thinking. Mrs. Hollis's lips thinned. "The window is fine. The boy is the problem. Come." Faith followed, but she carried that look in Liam's eyes with her into every room she entered. Later that morning, as she quietly dusted the edge of the grand piano in the formal living room, she heard deep, measured footsteps. She straightened, instinctively stepping back, cloth clutched in her fingers. Michael Davenport walked in like someone who had forgotten how to belong anywhere but his own shadow. His suit was perfectly tailored, his hair slightly disheveled in a way that revealed he had run his hand through it too many times. His eyes were cool steel, rimmed with a sleepless red. He spoke into his phone in a low, clipped tone. "Tell them I'm not interested in excuses," he said. "If they can't deliver on time, we'll find someone who can. No, I don't care what it costs." He ended the call and only then seemed to notice Faith at the edge of the room, standing very still. For a second, their eyes met. Hers dropped immediately to the floor, that automatic instinct to make herself smaller, quieter, safer. "You're new," he said, voice flat. "Yes, sir," Faith replied, barely above a whisper. "Faith? I started today." He nodded once. No greeting, no welcome, just acknowledgement, like checking another item off a list. "Mrs. Hollis will tell you what needs to be done." "Yes, sir," she echoed. He almost turned away, then paused, as if something else had wrestled its way to the surface. "If you see my son," he added, voice tightening, "don't push him. Don't try to make him talk. Just leave him be." It was a plea disguised as a command. Faith felt it. "Understood," she said softly. He left the room, and Faith let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The emptiness he left behind felt somehow heavier than his presence. As the day wore on, Faith moved from room to room, learning the mansion in the only way she knew how, through details. She noticed fingerprints on the glass railing that were small, child-sized, crayon marks half erased near the baseboard in one hallway, a tiny car toy abandoned under a console table, traces of a boy who existed here once with noise and movement and play, and whose world, now, had shrunk to a bedroom and a crack in a window. When Mrs. Hollis finally led her to the nursery to straighten things, Faith's stomach twisted. "The boy isn't here," the housekeeper said. "He's with a therapist downstairs. You'll have half an hour. Don't touch his personal belongings. Just the surfaces, the linens, the floor." The nursery was too quiet. No music box playing, no cartoons humming softly from a television. The walls were painted in gentle blues and grays, but the color felt faded under the weight of silence. A shelf held books that looked barely touched. A teddy bear sat on a chair in the corner, one ear slightly torn. Faith moved slowly, respectfully. She straightened the bed but left the small dent where Liam's head usually rested. While dusting the nightstand, she noticed the hearing aid again, lying there like a discarded lifeline. Beside it was a small notebook. She didn't open it, but she saw impressions on the top page where a child's hand had pressed hard while writing or drawing. Heavy strokes. Desperate. Near the desk, something caught her eye. A pattern scratched into the wood, half hidden under a stack of unused sketch paper. Tiny lines, repeated, almost rhythmic. Faith traced one with her fingertip, not enough to damage, just enough to feel it. There was intention here, not random, not meaningless. Her heart squeezed. "What are you trying to say?" she whispered, even though no one could hear. She remembered the way Liam's fingers had tapped against his leg in the bedroom. Tap, 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 tap. The same uneven rhythm carved into the wood. A message, maybe, a code, or just the only way he knew to scream. On the floor near the bed, she found a single sheet of paper that had slipped under the frame. She crouched, reaching for it. On it, a shaky drawing, a door, a bed, a dark scribble in the corner, and a small stick figure with big, round eyes. Over the figure's mouth, the boy had drawn a thick black X. Faith's throat burned. She carefully placed the drawing on the desk, where it wouldn't be stepped on or thrown away by someone who didn't look closely enough to care. Downstairs, raised voices echoed faintly. Faith might not have heard the words, but she heard the sharpness. She moved to the hallway, body tensing. "You're not listening to me," Michael's voice thundered from the next room. "He's worse. He's not sleeping, not eating. Your methods aren't working." A calmer voice, likely the therapist, responded, too low for Faith to distinguish the words, but she heard the tone, patient, professional, detached, the kind of calm that made grieving people feel like they were the problem. "It takes time," the therapist was saying. "We're doing what we can." "It's been a year," Michael bit out. A year of him slipping further away. A year of specialists and plans and charts and nothing changing. "He's my son, not a case file." Faith stepped back into the shadows as the conversation shifted, the voices moving further away. She pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the echo of his desperation resonate with something inside her own history. Hospital corridors, doctors speaking over her mother's fragile form, people making decisions without really seeing the person in the bed. By the time her first day neared its end, the mansion had quieted. Staff took off their aprons, the cook dimmed the kitchen lights, the house settled into its nighttime hush. Faith finished folding the last clean towel in the laundry room, exhaustion sinking into her bones. "Your room is this way," Mrs. Hollis said, less sharp now, but still distant. She led Faith to the small staff quarters at the back of the mansion, a narrow hallway with doors on either side. "You start again at 6 a.m., sharp. Don't be late. And remember, stay out of the family wing unless I send you." "Yes, ma'am," Faith replied. But later, when the mansion was wrapped in shadows and she lay in the narrow staff bed with the thin blanket pulled to her chin, she couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house felt like a whisper. Every faint sound through the walls felt like someone trying to be heard. A soft vibration hummed through the floorboards. A thud, then another. Faith slipped out of bed, feet finding her worn slippers, heart beating a little too fast. She opened her door into the dark hallway and listened. There, a faint, steady tapping from somewhere above. Tap, 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 tap. The same rhythm. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. The rules were clear, but some rules had never made sense to her, especially the ones that asked her to pretend not to notice pain just because it belonged to someone else. Quiet as breath, she crept up the back staircase, fingers gliding along the banister. The second floor was dimly lit by wall sconces, casting long, soft shadows. The tapping grew clearer as she approached the family wing, the one she was not supposed to enter, the one where Liam's nursery was. Her hand hesitated on the forbidden doorknob for a heartbeat. Then she turned it. The door opened soundlessly. Moonlight spilled into the room, painting everything in silver. Liam sat upright in bed, knees drawn to his chest, eyes fixed not on the crack in the ceiling this time, but on the corner of the room near the closet. His hands tapped the headboard in that same frantic pattern. Tap, 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 tap. He didn't notice Faith at first. His breathing was fast, shallow. His face glistened with the track of tears that had dried there, leaving pale salt lines on his cheeks. His hearing aid still lay abandoned nearby. Faith stepped inside, heart pounding, and closed the door behind her. She didn't call his name. Instead, she moved slowly into his line of sight and stopped a few feet away, hands visible, shoulders relaxed. She waited. It took a moment. Then Liam's gaze snapped to her, eyes wide with alarm. His tapping stopped. For a second, he looked like a trapped animal, expecting to be scolded or dragged back into silence. Faith lifted her hands, palms out, showing they were empty. She didn't know formal sign language well, just a few things she'd picked up from a class she once helped clean at the community center. But she knew one thing better than any sign: gentleness. Very slowly, she lowered one hand and tapped the footboard of the bed, mirroring his rhythm. Tap, 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 tap. Liam's breath caught. His eyes flew to where her fingers rested. He stared at her like she had just spoken his name in a language no one else had bothered to learn. She tapped again, the same way. Tap, 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 tap. "I see you," in the only words she had. His throat bobbed with a swallowed sob. His own hand rose, trembling, and answered her. Tap, 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 tap. The same pattern, slower now, less frantic, as if testing whether this moment was real or another cruel trick of his imagination. Faith's chest ached. Gently, carefully, she moved closer and sat on the very edge of the mattress. Leaving a respectful distance, she lifted one finger and, with permission in her eyes, reached out toward his palm. When he didn't pull away, she lightly traced 3 letters on his skin: L. I-A-M. He stared at his palm, then at her, shock and something like hope warring in his gaze. Faith smiled, small but steady, and whispered, knowing he couldn't hear but also knowing that some words were felt more than heard. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to understand you, okay? Liam blinked, a tear spilling over. His fingers closed around the air where her hand had just been, like he was trying to hold on to the shape of those letters. His gaze flickered again to the corner of the room, to the closet door that remained firmly shut. Panic flickered back into his eyes, and his fingers twitched, as if forming invisible shapes in the air. Faith followed his gaze, every instinct in her tightening. Something about that closet, something about the way his entire body flinched toward it and away from it at the same time. She turned back to him, eyes soft but steady. "Show me," she whispered, even though he couldn't hear the words. Liam swallowed, then slowly lifted his hand, a small shaking movement, and pointed, deliberately, at the closet door. For a long moment, Faith didn't breathe. Liam's small hand remained lifted toward the closet, fingers trembling with a message he had likely tried to give 100 times before. But no one had stopped long enough, quieted themselves long enough, cared deeply enough to understand. The moonlight framed him in silver, turning him into a whisper in a house full of voices that never listened. Faith's heart thudded, but her voice stayed steady, soft, a whisper meant for comfort more than comprehension. "Okay," she murmured, even though he couldn't hear. "Okay, I'm here." She didn't move toward the closet. Not yet. Children communicated with more than words, especially children who'd been neglected, frightened, misunderstood. She needed to show him he wasn't alone in this moment. Slowly, she placed one hand on the mattress and let him see every inch of the movement. Then she lifted her other hand and tapped gently on the headboard. Tap, 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 tap. A question. "Do you want me to look?" Liam stared at her fingers as though they were a language he had been starving for. Then, very slowly, he tapped back. Tap, 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 tap. "Yes, please." Faith nodded, the promise settling into her chest like a seed she would protect with her life. She stood and walked toward the closet with steps so soft the air barely stirred. But before she reached the handle, Liam jerked forward, panic slicing through his features. His hand shot out, clutching the fabric of her sleeve. Faith froze immediately. His breath trembled. His shaking head and frantic tapping against her arm said what he couldn't. "Not like that. Not alone. Not without me." Her gaze softened. "Okay," she whispered again, sliding down so she was eye level with him. "Then we do it your way." She held out her hand, palm upward. Liam hesitated, terror, confusion, yearning flickering across his face. Then, with heartbreaking caution, he placed his hand in hers. His fingers were ice cold. He guided her, not to the closet, but closer to the bed. Faith understood. He wanted her near, not investigating the fear yet, but showing she wasn't leaving. He pointed again. This time, the gesture was smaller, but heavier, with truth. Faith followed his gaze, studying the closet door. Nothing seemed unusual, but she felt it, an instinct sharper than reason. Something had happened there, something that taught a little boy to fear the dark, something that forced him into silence, even deeper than deafness. She turned back to Liam and nodded slowly. "I see that you're afraid." His shoulders sagged, trembling with emotional exhaustion. Faith gently lifted his blanket and tucked it around him, a gesture so simple yet so foreign in this house that Liam blinked like he didn't understand why someone would do it. She brushed a strand of hair off his forehead, not touching his skin, just moving the air near him, asking permission. He didn't pull away. His eyelids drooped slightly. Every line of his small body showed exhaustion, the kind that didn't come from lack of sleep, but from living in fear. Faith sat on the floor beside his bed, legs crossed, posture relaxed and non-threatening. She didn't touch him. She didn't speak. She just stayed. Minutes passed. The quiet shifted from tense to trusting. Eventually, Liam's fingers began tapping again. Soft, slow, no longer frantic. Faith mimicked the rhythm on her knee. His breathing steadied. When his eyes finally fluttered shut, Faith stayed where she was. She didn't dare move, worried he'd jolt awake in panic. Moonlight painted the room in shades of forgiveness no one here had earned. And that was how Michael found them. He had woken to the sound of movement. A door, a creak, maybe even footsteps. The mansion was too large, too hollow, too haunted by the absence of his wife and the deterioration of his son. Sleep rarely came easily, so when he heard something faint upstairs, instinct, fear, dragged him from bed. He didn't expect to find Faith. He stood in the doorway, breath caught, watching the scene unfold in front of him like something fragile enough to shatter with a single word. His son, his unreachable, silent, terrified son, was asleep, and a maid he'd met less than 12 hours ago sat beside him, her presence steady as a heartbeat. Michael's throat tightened. He hadn't seen Liam sleep peacefully in months, maybe a year. Every night was restless tossing, tears, silent screams. But now Liam's face looked almost serene, his hand resting in a loose curl near Faith's sleeve. Faith looked up when she sensed a shift in the air. Her eyes widened. She startled to her feet, careful not to disturb the boy. I'm sorry, she whispered instinctively, even though her voice wouldn't wake Liam. He was scared. I didn't mean to break any rules. Michael couldn't speak. He stared at Liam, then at Faith, then back at Liam. He let you stay? Michael finally asked, voice rough. Faith's breath caught. Yes, she said quietly. He didn't want to be alone. Michael stepped into the room, movements unsteady. He ran a trembling hand through his hair. He never lets anyone. His voice broke. He looked at Faith with a mixture of disbelief and something else, something tender, something frightened, something grateful. What did you do? He whispered. Faith swallowed. Nothing special. I just listened. Michael's gaze snapped to hers. He can't hear. She lowered her eyes, shaking her head gently. You don't need ears to be listened to, sir. The sentence sliced him open. He staggered, leaning a hand against the dresser, his breathing uneven. He looked at his son again, and the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights pressed behind his ribs. Faith wanted to step back, disappear, give him space, but she also saw something in his expression that resembled a drowning man who had just learned the shore might still exist. I shouldn't have been here, she whispered. I know that. No. Michael's voice was sharp, immediate. He didn't look away from his son. No, you did something no one else has. You reached him. Faith shook her head again, humility instinctive. I didn't reach him. I just met him where he already was. Michael stared at her, then really stared, as if seeing her for the first time, not as staff, not as a stranger, but as someone holding a truth he'd been searching for in doctors, specialists, programs, and failing to find. His eyes softened. Thank you, he said, the words sounding foreign on his tongue. I don't know how you did it, but thank you. Faith shifted uncomfortably. Praise wasn't something she knew how to hold. I didn't do anything extraordinary. You did, he insisted, voice cracking. You got him to sleep. Faith looked down at Liam, sleeping peacefully for the first time in so long that even his father could barely remember the last time he'd looked like this. He was trying to tell you something, she murmured, without raising her eyes. Michael's breath hitched. Tell me what? Faith hesitated. She wouldn't shock him, not yet. Not when she didn't know enough. Not when Liam's fear told her the truth was not simple. I don't know yet, she said softly, but he's been trying. Michael exhaled shakily, every muscle tense with grief and guilt. I've been trying too, he confessed, voice barely audible, but I don't know how to help him. I don't know how to be enough. Faith looked up slowly. Her voice came out gentle but unwavering. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. The sentence landed like a stone in a still lake, rippling through Michael's chest with painful clarity. His eyes softened, but his expression tightened as though he weren't sure he deserved kindness. I came because I thought I heard something, he said after a long silence. Faith tilted her head. You did, she whispered. You heard a child asking for help. Michael inhaled, the truth hitting harder than he expected. Faith hesitated, then pointed gently to the closet. He's afraid of something there. Michael stiffened. The shadows under his eyes darkened. What do you mean? Faith shook her head. I'm not sure yet, but he was trying to show me. Whatever it is, it's not small. Michael's jaw flexed, a storm gathering behind his eyes. Is someone hurting him? Faith's heart thudded. I don't know, but I think he's been trying to tell you for a long time. Silence thickened between them. It wasn't accusatory. It wasn't blaming. It was simply the truth he needed to hear. Michael swallowed hard, shoulders shaking. He stepped toward his son, brushing a hand through Liam's hair with heartbreaking tenderness. "I'm here," he whispered, even though his son couldn't hear him. "I swear I'm here." Faith watched him, something warm unfurling in her chest. Respect, empathy, recognition of a father who had been drowning in grief, not indifference. She moved toward the door. "I should let you both rest." Michael looked up sharply. "Wait." His voice was softer this time. "Please, don't leave yet." Faith froze. He looked at his sleeping son again. "Just stay. A little longer. I don't want him waking up alone." Her breath caught. "Of course," she whispered. She sat back down, this time on the floor near the doorway, keeping a respectful distance. Michael sat in the chair near the bed, elbows on his knees, watching his son breathe. A fragile peace settled over the room. For the first time in that mansion's long, echoing loneliness, none of them were alone. The night in Liam's room had settled into something almost sacred. Moonlight dimmed into early gray dawn, softening the shadows across the nursery walls. Michael sat slumped in the chair, arms crossed loosely over his chest, head tipped forward as exhaustion finally pulled him under. Even asleep, he looked tense, jaw tight, brows furrowed, as though fear still sat on his shoulder whispering worst-case scenarios. Faith remained on the floor beside the door, legs tucked under her, back against the wall. She hadn't meant to fall asleep, but sometime near dawn her eyelids drifted shut. Her sleep was light, the kind shaped by years of needing to wake fast if anything went wrong. She woke to a gentle tapping. Tap, 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 tap. Her eyes fluttered open. Liam was awake. He sat in bed with the blanket pulled up to his chin, studying her with cautious curiosity. His fingers tapped the mattress again, not frantic this time, but exploratory. The question was obvious in his eyes. "Are you still here?" Faith smiled softly and tapped the floor beside her knee. Tap, 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 tap. "Yes, I stayed." Liam blinked, absorbing this, his small shoulders relaxed by a fraction. When he looked toward the chair beside his bed, Faith followed his gaze. Michael was still asleep, but barely, his breathing shallow, his posture stiff even in slumber. Liam watched him with a strange mix of fear and longing, a child trying to decipher a father made of stone and grief. Faith whispered, even though he couldn't hear. He stayed too. Liam's breath hitched, his eyes softened. Michael stirred then, blinking groggily as reality returned. His gaze darted first to his son, awake, alert, calm, then to Faith on the floor. Confusion flickered over his expression. "You're still here," he murmured. Faith nodded, rising slowly to her feet. "You asked me to stay until he woke." Michael's eyes dropped, as if ashamed that he had needed someone beside him in the first place. "Right," he said quietly. "Thank you." Before the moment could stretch into something awkward, Liam reached forward and tugged the blanket nervously between his fingers. His gaze flickered from Faith to the hearing aid on the nightstand, then back to Faith. Faith followed his eyes. "You want to try?" she asked softly. Liam didn't answer. He never did, but his fingers stilled against the blanket. That was enough. Faith stepped forward slowly, giving him time to object if he wanted. She picked up the small device with a tenderness that made Michael swallow hard. She turned it on, the tiny light blinking to life. Liam flinched at the soundless vibration of the activation. Faith didn't force it. She simply held it open in her palm like an offering. Liam hesitated, then reached out and touched it with one tentative finger. Michael's breath hitched. Faith smiled. "Whenever you're ready." But Liam withdrew his hand again, curling it near his chest. Not yet. Not today. But the fact that he'd even touched it, after days of rejecting it entirely, was a small miracle. Michael saw it too. His hand rose to cover his mouth, eyes stinging. "He hasn't even looked at his hearing aid in over a week," he whispered, voice unsteady. Faith set it back down gently. "He will, when he feels safe." Liam watched her with an intensity that made her chest ache. A soft knock at the door ruined the moment. Mrs. Hollis stepped inside, her expression cold as winter stone. "Mr. Davenport, She froze upon seeing Faith in the room. Her gaze narrowed sharply. "What is she doing in here?" Michael straightened, shoulders stiffening. "She's helping." Mrs. Hollis blinked, taken aback. "Helping? She's a cleaner, sir." Liam flinched at the raised tone. Faith instantly stepped slightly between Mrs. Hollis and the boy. Not enough to challenge authority, but enough to soften the line of sight. The movement was instinctive, protective, and Michael noticed, "She stays Michael said firmly. Mrs. Hollis stared at him. Sir, that's highly irregular. Staff aren't. I said she stays. Faith's stomach tightened. She hated being the reason conflict rose. Sir, if I broke rules, I'm truly sorry. I didn't intend. You didn't break anything. Michael cut quietly. You did what none of us have managed. Liam's eyes flicked to his father with a tiny glimmer of hope, as if waiting to see whether this new softness was real. Mrs. Hollis folded her arms tightly. Well then, if you're finished here, Miss Carter has chores and routines to learn. I can go, Faith began, but Liam's hand shot out, small fingers gripping the sleeve of her blouse. Not hard, not desperate, just enough to say, don't leave yet. Faith looked down, her heart twisting, but she also knew boundaries mattered, both for the child and the fragile trust forming inside this family. She crouched to meet Liam's eyes. I'll come back, she promised, slow enough for him to read her lips. I promise. Liam swallowed, processing the shape of the words. His hand loosened. Faith stood, offering him one small wave. His fingers lifted and wiggled shyly in return. Michael watched the exchange like someone witnessing something impossible, like watching a flower grow out of stone. As they stepped into the hallway, Mrs. Hollis waited until the door closed behind them before turning to Faith with sharp, low words. This house has rules for a reason, she snapped. Do not get involved with matters that aren't your concern. Faith kept her voice steady. I didn't get involved. He was scared. There are therapists for that. Her throat tightened. With respect, ma'am, therapists didn't go to him last night. Fear did. Mrs. Hollis stiffened, taken aback. Faith lowered her gaze. I'm not trying to create trouble. I just listened. You're not paid to listen, Mrs. Hollis said. Faith smiled sadly. I know, but sometimes it's harder not to. She walked away before the housekeeper found a retort. Later that morning, Faith learned the rhythms of the mansion, the clatter of dishes in the kitchen, the stern routine of the laundry room, the polished rhythm of vacuuming long hallways without missing a corner. She worked silently but thoughtfully, moving with a calm that made the mansion feel less suffocating. Every so often, she felt eyes on her. When she glanced toward the staircase, she saw Michael standing at the top, half hidden behind the railing, watching her with a strange expression, part gratitude, part curiosity, part something he didn't have a name for yet. He wasn't used to people moving gently. The world he lived in was all sharp edges and urgency. Watching Faith glide through a room was like watching a soft breeze push open a window he hadn't realized was nailed shut. In the late morning, Mrs. Hollis cornered her again. You have been reassigned, the housekeeper said stiffly. Faith blinked. Reassigned. You will now handle the second floor as well as the common rooms. Faith's breath caught. The second floor, where the family rooms are. Mrs. Hollis didn't meet her eyes. Mr. Davenport's orders. Faith's chest warmed unexpectedly. Trust wasn't something she was given often. I'll respect the space, she said softly. I don't touch anything personal. Just do your job, Mrs. Hollis muttered before walking off. Faith carried her supplies upstairs, heart fluttering for reasons she didn't fully understand. The corridor outside Liam's room was quiet, bathed in soft, natural light. And then she paused. The closet door, the one Liam had pointed at last night, was slightly ajar. Just a sliver, as if someone had opened it recently and hadn't closed it all the way. She looked left, then right. No one. Faith approached slowly, her breath shallow. Her fingertip grazed the edge of the door. Something inside the closet shifted. A faint sound, like wood creaking or fabric settling. Her pulse spiked. Faith? She jumped. Michael stood behind her, hands in his pockets, eyes sharper than before. She straightened. I'm sorry. I wasn't opening it. It was already. I know, he said quietly. They both looked at the door. Something unspoken hung between them. You felt it too, he murmured. Faith nodded slowly. Michael exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. He's afraid of something in there, and I've been too lost in my own grief to see it. Faith met his eyes, not boldly, but honestly. You see it now? Michael held her gaze longer than he should have. Seconds stretched. His expression softened. Not professionally, not politely, but humanly. Come downstairs when you're finished, he said. There's something you need to know. About Liam. About what happened to him. Faith's breath caught. Of course. Michael stepped away, leaving her with the slightly open closet door and a child's trembling fear echoing in the stillness. And as Faith continued her work, she whispered the same silent promise she had given Liam. I'm going to understand you, and I'm going to help. Whatever lived in the shadows of this house, its days were numbered. Faith finished cleaning the corridor with movement slower than usual, her thoughts snagging on the half-open closet door every time she passed it. Something about that little gap felt wrong, heavy with a secret, not just fear, not just memory. Something lived there, not something literal, something emotional, something carved into a child's silence. When she finally made her way downstairs, the mansion felt oddly awake for a house so full of grief. The staff moved quieter than usual, as if unsure whether the shift in Michael's mood was temporary or the beginning of something bigger. In the kitchen, the cook, a round, soft-spoken man named Arturo, gave her a curious look. You must be the new girl, he said gently, sliding a tray of fresh pastries out of the oven. The one the boss actually spoke to. Faith flushed. He just needed something. Arturo hummed knowingly. The only thing that man needs is sleep and hope, and both seemed to be in short supply. Before Faith could reply, Arturo slid a small plate toward her. Here, have one. You look like you skipped breakfast. Her stomach growled at the smell of warm bread and butter, but she shook her head politely. I shouldn't, Mrs. Hollis. She can scold me, not you. Arturo winked and pushed the plate into her hands. Eat. Faith took a bite. Fluffy, warm, comforting, the kind of thing that tasted like safety. Thank you, she whispered. Arturo nodded toward the large window overlooking the back garden. He's out there, he said, waiting for you. Faith's heart gave a strange, soft lurch. Michael Davenport was a silhouette against the pale morning light, standing with his hands in his pockets by the frozen fountain. Even from a distance, she could see the tension in his shoulders. Grief lived inside him like an unwanted tenant. She stepped outside carefully, boots crunching on the thin frost covering the stone path. Michael heard her before he saw her. He turned, his expression unreadable but softer than yesterday. You didn't have to come, he said. You asked, she answered simply. He held her gaze, something flickering there. Respect, maybe even gratitude. Thank you. They stood in silence for a moment. The winter wind tugged at her ponytail, and Michael's breath fogged in the cold air. I meant what I said, he murmured finally. There are things you should know, if you're going to be around Liam. Faith swallowed. I want to understand him. Michael nodded. Then you need to understand what happened before. He motioned to a stone bench. They sat, Faith with her hands folded politely in her lap, Michael with his elbows on his knees, staring at the frost-bleached garden. When Liam was born, he began, voice low. My wife and I didn't know he was deaf. He looked at us, smiled at us. We thought everything was fine. His jaw tightened, but he never startled at loud noises, never turned when we spoke. The doctors confirmed it after a few months. I'll never forget the look on my wife's face when we heard the diagnosis. Faith lowered her eyes. She must have loved him very much. Michael's breath hitched. She did. She was the warmth of this house. Liam lit up around her. He paused, swallowing hard. And then she got sick. Faith's chest tightened. Cancer. Aggressive. Fast. Michael's voice cracked. She was gone before Liam even learned his first sign. A long silence stretched between them. When she died, he continued, eyes distant, I shut down. I didn't know how to help Liam through his grief when I could barely get out of bed myself. He was 2 years old, confused, losing his mother and then losing the version of me he knew. Faith's heart broke quietly inside her chest. I tried to compensate by hiring more help, therapists, specialists, expensive programs, everything money could buy. He let out a harsh breath. But money can't buy the thing I didn't realize he needed most. Presence, Faith whispered. Michael looked at her, a raw, honest look. Yes, he dragged a hand over his face. Somewhere in the middle of all that, I lost him. He became quieter, more withdrawn. The tapping started, his expression darkened. And then the nightmares. Faith felt her pulse quicken. Nightmares about what? He shook his head. He can't describe them. And he shut down whenever anyone tried to ask. Faith hesitated before speaking. I think he's trying to tell you now. Michael's eyes widened. Because of the closet? She nodded. He's scared of it. Deeply. Michael's jaw clenched. You think someone hurt him? I don't know, Faith said gently. But children don't fear empty spaces unless something happened there. Something emotional. Something they can't name. He turned to face her fully now, his voice a low, desperate whisper. Please, if you know how to help him, tell me. I don't care what it takes. Faith hesitated. She didn't want to overstep, didn't want to pretend she had expertise she didn't. But she did understand pain. Quiet pain. Hidden pain. The kind that hid in corners and closets and cracks. She took a steady breath. First, he needs to know he's safe when he wakes up. Michael swallowed. Okay. Second, he needs to know he can tell you when something is wrong. Michael looked down at his hands, strong hands that had built empires but failed to reach his own child. I'm trying, he whispered. God, I am trying. Faith softened. Trying is enough if you keep trying. Michael closed his eyes briefly, letting the cold wind numb his skin. When he looked at her again, his voice had changed, softened, opened. Will you help me? He asked. Faith blinked, stunned by the vulnerability behind his words. If you want me to, I do, he said quietly. More than you know. The admission startled both of them. Before Faith could respond, the garden door flew open with a sharp bang. Mr. Davenport, Mrs. Hollis called, breathless and pale. It's Liam, something's wrong. Michael shot to his feet instantly, fear flooding his features. What happened? Mrs. Hollis swallowed hard, eyes trembling. He's in a panic. The therapist tried to take him to the playroom and he started hitting the wall. Hard. Faith felt her heart drop. Michael didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the mansion. Faith ran after him. They reached the upper hallway breathless. A few staff members stood frozen, unsure what to do. The therapist, a rigid young man in a crisp suit, hovered outside the playroom, arms crossed defensively. I barely touched him, he insisted. He needs firm boundaries. He needs to stop manipulating. But Michael didn't let him finish. Get out of my house. The therapist blinked. Sir, I said get out, Michael repeated, voice shaking with controlled fury. Now, the therapist left, muttering under his breath. Michael turned toward the playroom door just as a loud thud echoed from inside. Liam, Faith pushed forward. Let me go first. Michael hesitated, but only for a second. Then he nodded. Faith slipped into the room. Liam was on the floor near the toy shelf, knees pulled to his chest, hands covering his ears even though he couldn't hear the world. His breathing was shallow and rapid. Tears streaked down his face. His small fist pounded the wooden floor again. Tap, 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 trying to speak through the only language he trusted. Faith dropped to her knees immediately, keeping her body small, open, safe. She tapped the floor slowly. Tap, 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 tap. I'm here. Liam's eyes flew to her, wild and broken. She tapped again. Tap, 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 tap. His breath faltered. His hand lifted. He answered her rhythm. Faith crawled closer, not touching him, just moving into his world with gentle patience. Behind her, Michael stood frozen in the doorway, watching with trembling awe as Liam shifted, inch by inch, toward Faith's presence, like she was the only island in a storm he couldn't escape. Faith whispered to the room, not for Liam's ears, but for his heart. It's okay. You're safe. Tell me what you need. Liam pointed again, not at Faith, not at Michael, not at the door, but at his own chest, right over his heart. And then, he pointed toward the hallway. Faith turned slowly, toward the hallway that led back to his bedroom, toward the closet, toward the secret he'd been begging someone, anyone, to understand. Faith's pulse quickened. She looked at Michael, voice trembling but certain. He's ready to show us. Michael's face went pale. Show us? What? Faith swallowed. I don't know yet, she whispered. But whatever it is, it starts in that closet. Liam's small finger hovered in the air, pointing toward the hallway that led to his bedroom. His breathing was ragged, chest trembling with the effort of holding himself together. Faith saw it immediately, the way his other hand gripped his shirt, pulling the fabric tight over his heart like he was trying to silence the pounding inside him. His eyes flicked from the hallway to Faith, then to Michael, desperate, yet terrified. Faith whispered softly, leaning close enough for Liam to read her lips. You want us to go? Liam nodded once. Tiny, fragile, but clear. Michael's breath hitched. Faith, are you sure this is a good idea? She didn't take her eyes off Liam. It's his idea. Liam's gaze snapped to Michael, searching, pleading. The boy had no words, but his face held one unmistakable truth. Please, Dad, see what I've been trying to tell you. Michael swallowed hard, his jaw clenching with guilt and determination. All right, he whispered. We'll go. Together. Faith nodded gently and extended her hand, not to pull him, not to lead him, but to offer him a path. Liam hesitated. His hand hovered in the air. Then, trembling, he placed his small palm against her open one. Michael exhaled sharply. The sight hit him like a blow. His son trusting someone new, trusting someone who wasn't family, trusting someone outside the fortress he had built around them. Faith squeezed Liam's hand lightly, not enough to startle him, just enough to anchor him. Then she stood. Come, she said softly. We'll walk together. Liam followed, his steps small and careful. Michael trailed a few feet behind, his eyes darting between them, between the hallway lights flickering faintly and the memories he'd been too afraid to name. The closer they got to his bedroom, the more anxious Liam became. His free hand began tapping rhythmically against his thigh. Tap, 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 tap. Faith matched the rhythm with her thumb against his hand. He swallowed a sob and stepped closer to her, almost hiding behind her leg. When they reached the nursery hallway, the temperature seemed to drop. The air felt heavier, thick with unspoken things. The closet door was still slightly ajar, as if waiting for them. Faith knelt, gently guiding Liam into her line of sight. Do you want me to open it? She asked. Liam shook his head violently. Michael froze. Then, what does he want? Liam tugged Faith's sleeve. He pointed at her, then at the closet, then at himself. Faith inhaled slowly. He wants me to sit by the closet, while he stays by the bed. Michael's brow furrowed. Why? What does that? Faith shook her head. It's not logic, Mr. Davenport. It's trauma. He needs to face the memory, but not alone. Not directly. Not yet. A tense silence followed. Michael stepped forward, voice cracking. Liam, my boy, you don't have to be afraid. I'm here. But Liam recoiled slightly. Not from Michael, not rejecting him, but from the volume of emotion in his voice. He reached for Faith's sleeve again. Faith looked up at Michael softly. He trusts you. He does. But right now, he trusts silence more. Michael's lips pressed together. He nodded, stepping back, bracing himself against the wall as if he'd been hit by something invisible. Faith stood and took a breath. Liam, she whispered, I'll do exactly what you ask. The boy's shaking eased just enough for him to walk into the room. He hurried to the bed, climbing onto it and curling near the pillows, not lying down, but sitting upright, knees tucked in defensively. Faith approached the closet door slowly, so slowly she wasn't sure she was moving at all. She lowered herself onto the floor beside the crack of shadow, resting her back against the wall, leaving the door untouched. Then she tapped the floor. Tap, 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 tap. I'm here. I'm not opening it. Not unless you want me to. Liam responded almost immediately. Tap, 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 tap. Michael's breath trembled. He crossed his arms tightly, shoulders shaking as he fought the urge to intervene, to demand answers, to tear that door off its hinges and destroy anything that had ever frightened his son. Faith's eyes drifted to the small sliver of darkness between the closet and the frame. Her instincts tightened. Something about the space felt wrong, like fear lived there, like fear had been put there by someone with intent. She whispered, Liam, did someone hide you in here? Liam flinched violently, eyes widening. Michael's heart stopped. What? He croaked. Faith turned immediately to Liam. It's okay. You don't have to answer now. You're safe. No one is going to open it. Not me. Not anyone. Slowly, painfully, Liam unclenched his fists. Michael took one step toward the closet, his face pale, jaw trembling. I didn't know, he whispered. Faith, I swear to God, I didn't know. Faith looked at him gently. I believe you. He sank onto the floor. Who would do something like that to him? Faith swallowed. She didn't want to say it, not without proof, but her voice trembled with intuition. Someone who was supposed to care for him. Michael's face drained of color. At that exact moment, Liam tapped again, soft, hesitant, like asking permission. Tap, 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 tap. Faith turned to him. What is it? He pointed at her hand, then at the closet, then shook his head. Faith understood immediately. He didn't want her to open it with her hand. He wanted her To knock. Her breath caught. Okay, she whispered. Just a knock. She lifted her knuckles and gently tapped the wooden surface. Knock, knock, knock. A soft, trembling exhale escaped Liam's lips. He tapped the mattress in response. Slow, steady, almost relieved. Michael stared at the exchange, eyes glistening. He's telling us something. Faith, what does it mean? Faith leaned closer to the door. Liam, do you want me to knock again? He nodded once, so she knocked again. 3 soft taps. Knock, knock, knock. And that was when they heard it. A faint sound from inside the closet. Not a person, not an animal. A sound like something shifting, something small, something metallic. Faith's blood ran cold. Michael's face turned to stone. What was that? Faith whispered. I don't know. But Liam did. His hands flew up, shaking, and he tapped the fastest, most urgent pattern she had seen yet. Tap, 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 eyes wide with terror, pointing at the closet and then at his own throat. Faith's heart dropped. Michael's chest heaved. What does that mean? He whispered, nearly choking. What is he trying to tell us? Faith's voice came out barely audible. He's saying that whatever happened took his voice. Michael staggered back, face crumpling, spine hitting the wall as he pressed both hands to his mouth. Liam trembled uncontrollably. Faith moved toward him, sitting at the foot of the bed. She tapped the mattress softly. Tap, tap, tap. It's okay. You're safe. I'm here. Liam tapped back. Slower, fragile. Then he pointed at her, then at Michael, then at the closet. Faith took a breath. He wants us to open it, she whispered. Michael's head snapped up. Are you sure? Faith nodded slowly. Not alone, but together. Liam slid off the bed, shaking but determined. He stood between them, small, fragile, brave. Michael placed a trembling hand on his son's shoulder. Faith rested hers lightly on his other side. Together, the 3 approached the closet door. Michael reached for the handle. His voice broke. Liam, I swear to you, whatever's behind this door, I will protect you. Liam squeezed his father's hand. Faith whispered, whenever you're ready. Michael turned the knob. The closet door opened, and inside, something waited. Something that would change everything. The door creaked open, not loudly, not dramatically, but with a soft, dragging sigh, like the closet itself exhaled a secret it had been holding for far too long. The smell of dust and stale air drifted out. Shelves lined the walls, stacked neatly with blankets, folded linens, and shadows, but nothing obvious. No monster, no danger, just a dark, cramped space that looked painfully ordinary, except to Liam. The moment the door widened, he jerked backward with a tiny gasp, silent but sharp, grabbing Faith's sleeve so hard his fingers dug into the fabric. His breathing sped up, eyes locked onto the bottom right corner of the closet. Not the shelves, not the hanging coats, not the floor, the corner. Faith followed the direction of his trembling finger. Something was there, a small metal object, barely visible, caught the light. Michael frowned, leaning forward. What is that? Faith crouched first, moving slowly so Liam could see every movement. She reached into the corner and her fingertips brushed something cold. She lifted it out. A metal latch, a chain, a lock. Faith's stomach turned. It was a small restraint, the kind used on child safety harnesses. But this one was broken, bent, as if someone had ripped it off in panic or desperation. Michael went pale. Why is that in my son's closet? Faith looked back at Liam. He was trembling so hard his knees were knocking together. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Liam, did someone lock you in here? Liam closed his eyes and nodded. Michael's world collapsed in a single second. His knees buckled, and he grabbed the doorframe to keep from falling. A raw, guttural sound escaped him. Not anger yet, not even grief, but disbelief so profound it hollowed him out. No, he whispered. No, God, no, my boy. He pushed past Faith and knelt in front of Liam, gripping his son's arms gently but with unbearable desperation. Who did this? He demanded softly. Who put you in here? Tell me, please. Tell me who hurt you. But Liam couldn't speak. Not with his mouth, not yet with signs, only with his trembling, terrified eyes. Faith knelt beside them, lowering the metal piece onto the floor between them. Liam, she whispered, if you can't tell us with words, can you show us? Liam's body tensed. His fingers twitched. Hesitant, clumsy, unrecognizable patterns. Not formal sign language. Not something he had been taught. Just fragments. The emotional version of a scream. He pressed a finger to his own wrist, then dragged it upward along his forearm. Faith watched closely. Michael held his son's hand still. Is that a gesture you've seen before? Did someone do that to you? Liam shook his head, then did it again. Slow, deliberate. Faith's heart pounded. She'd seen that kind of gesture once at the community center, from a little girl who mimicked the motion of someone grabbing her arm and dragging her. Her voice trembled. That's a pulling motion. Michael's jaw clenched. Someone dragged him into the closet. Liam's breath hitched. He nodded violently, tears welling in his eyes. Michael choked on a curse. Who? He whispered again. Who touched you? Who put their hands on you? Liam's trembling hand lifted. He pointed toward the nursery doorway. Faith turned. The hallway. Someone who worked here. Someone who had access to his room. Someone Liam saw regularly. Her stomach tightened. Liam, she asked gently, was it someone who works in the house? He froze. Then, hesitantly, fearfully, he nodded. Michael went still. A terrifying calm settled over him, the kind that comes right before a storm erupts. Who the hell? But before he could finish, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Slow, measured, approaching. Faith rose instinctively, stepping between Liam and the door. Michael followed, protective rage burning behind his eyes. The footsteps grew closer, heels clicking briskly on wooden floors. And then, a cold voice cut through the tension. There you are! Mrs. Hollis stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes narrowed, and everything inside Liam collapsed. He lunged backward, scrambling onto the bed, curling into a tight ball of panic. His hands shook so violently that the mattress trembled beneath him. Faith felt the truth hit her like a blow. It was not a theory, not a guess, not a maybe. It was her. Liam's terror made it undeniable. Faith's breath left her. Michael's face drained of color. He stepped forward, voice low and shaking. Hollis, what did you do? Mrs. Hollis stiffened. Excuse me, Liam whimpered. Faith's voice came out sharp and protective. You need to leave this room. Mrs. Hollis scoffed. This is absurd. I run this household. That child... Michael moved so fast Mrs. Hollis flinched. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't yelling. His voice was barely above a whisper, but it was lethal. Step away from my son. Mrs. Hollis's eyes flicked between Michael's trembling hands and Faith's protective posture. Sir, he's manipulating you, throwing tantrums. This girl is filling his head with... Enough, Michael snapped. Faith stepped closer to Liam, placing a calm hand near him. Not touching, just showing presence. Liam reached out, tiny fingers clutching her wrist. Michael saw it, and something inside him cracked. He turned toward Mrs. Hollis slowly. I want you out of my house. Now. Mrs. Hollis straightened, indignation painting her face red. You're making a mistake. That boy is... I said out. The roar shook the walls. Liam flinched, curling tighter. Faith reacted instantly, touching his shoulder lightly, grounding him, whispering words he couldn't hear but could feel. Mrs. Hollis paled but didn't move. I've served this family for 30 years. I don't take orders from some... Michael stepped closer, voice deadly quiet now. You locked my son in a closet. Her face twitched, just enough to betray the truth. Faith gasped softly. Michael's eyes flamed with fury. Get out! Mrs. Hollis straightened her spine. Fine, but the next staff you bring in will realize the same thing. That child isn't normal and... She didn't finish, because Liam screamed, not with sound, but with terror. He lunged into Faith's arms, burying his face in her chest, shaking violently. Faith wrapped her arms around him, rocking gently, her own heart breaking. Michael froze at the sight. Faith, holding his son, choosing her, seeking safety in her. His fury sharpened. He pointed to the hallway. Leave this house before I call the police. Mrs. Hollis turned sharply and walked out, muttering under her breath. Only when her footsteps disappeared did Michael finally move. He knelt in front of Faith and Liam. His voice cracked. Is he okay? Faith's eyes softened. He will be, but he's terrified. Michael's expression folded with guilt, grief, horror, love, Every emotion a father can feel when he realizes he failed to see what was right in front of him. He reached for Liam slowly. "Liam, my sweet boy, and why didn't you tell me?" Liam looked at him, eyes red, face pale, trembling still. He lifted his hand and tapped Michael's chest. Tap, 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 tap. The same pattern he had been tapping for days, the same cry for help. Michael broke. He leaned forward and pressed his forehead to his son's. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm here now, and I swear, I will never let anyone hurt you again." Liam sobbed silently. Faith's hand brushed gently over his back. Michael lifted his gaze to her, eyes wet, voice raw. "You saved him," he whispered. Faith shook her head. "He saved himself. He just needed someone to see him." Michael's breath shook. "And I didn't." Faith met his eyes, not blaming, not condemning. Soft, honest, true. "You were hurting too," she murmured. "But now you're both healing." Michael closed his eyes for a moment, just a moment, then opened them again with new clarity. "Faith," she held her breath, "don't leave us, please." Faith's heart trembled. She looked at Liam. His small fingers tightened around her sleeve. She looked at Michael. His gaze was filled with desperate sincerity, and in that moment, she knew she wasn't just cleaning a mansion, she was rebuilding a home. For a long, trembling moment, no one moved. Liam clung to Faith's sleeve like it was the only solid thing in a world that had betrayed him, and Michael stared at her as though she were the first ray of sunlight he'd seen after a year of winter. The air felt thick, fragile, sacred, wrapped in the aftermath of truth finally revealed. Faith broke the silence first. She gently slid one hand around Liam's back, just enough to let him lean into her if he needed. Then she looked at Michael, swallowing softly. "I won't leave," she whispered. "Not if you need me." Michael's exhale trembled through his chest. "We do," he said. "We really do." He sat beside them on the carpeted floor, elbows resting on his knees, head bowed for a moment as if silently gathering strength. When he lifted his face again, there was something new in his eyes. Resolve. Raw, fierce, protective resolve. "From today on," he murmured, "nothing and no one will come near my son unless I know I can trust them." Liam shifted slightly, still holding Faith's sleeve. His breathing had slowed, the panic ebbing, replaced by exhaustion. Faith brushed a stray hair from his forehead. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe." Michael watched the gesture, his expression tightening with emotion. He looked down at his son's small hand gripping Faith, and a bittersweet smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "He never chooses people," he said, voice soft in awe. "He never reaches for anyone." Faith shook her head. "He's choosing safety. He's choosing connection. That's brave." Michael's throat moved with a swallowed breath. "I want to give him more of that. I just don't know how." Faith looked at him gently. "You're already doing it." His eyes glistened. He looked away. After a few minutes of silence, Faith carefully lifted Liam's small hand. "Can I show you something?" she asked softly. Liam blinked, still trembling, but curious. He nodded. Faith formed a simple hand shape, one he would understand even without formal training. She touched her fingertips to her heart, then pointed to him. Liam's eyes softened instantly. He repeated the gesture clumsily, tapping his chest, then pointing toward her. Michael watched, breath catching. What does that mean?" Faith smiled faintly. "It means, I'm here." Michael's chest tightened. "He told you he's here." Faith shook her head. "No, he told me he sees me here, and that he wants me to stay." Michael looked away, jaw trembling under the weight of seeing his son communicate something human, soft, intimate, not fear, not panic, but connection. Liam then turned his small hand toward Michael hesitantly, touching his own chest, then lifting his finger slightly as though unsure how to finish. Michael froze. "Do it," Faith whispered gently. "He's trying." Michael's breath wavered. He mirrored Faith's gesture, touching his chest, then pointing softly toward Liam. Liam inhaled sharply. It was the first moment of safe father-son communication since his mother died. Pure, quiet, sacred. Faith blinked away the sudden sting in her eyes. After a while, Liam slumped against her shoulder, exhaustion taking hold. Faith shifted so he could rest comfortably, sitting cross-legged on the floor so his small body could curl gently into her. Michael watched, every breath he took deep and shaky, as the boy who never let anyone hold him now slept in the arms of a woman he'd known for less than a day. "Faith," Michael murmured, voice rough. "I don't understand how you do this." Faith stroked Liam's back with slow, grounding circles. "Trauma recognizes gentleness," she whispered. "He just needed someone who listened." Michael closed his eyes, his voice breaking. "I should have been that someone." Faith shook her head softly. "You were grieving. You weren't absent. You were hurting." Michael stared at her like no one had ever spoken to him with that much truth before. Hours later, the sun had risen high, filling the hallway with gentle warmth. Liam slept in Faith's lap for nearly an hour before stirring, blinking groggily. The first thing he did was look at Faith's face, checking she was still there. Faith smiled tenderly. "Hi, sweetheart." Liam's fingers brushed her sleeve again, reassurance anchoring him. Michael stepped closer, lowering himself to sit on the edge of the bed. "Hey, buddy. How do you feel?" Liam looked at him for a long moment. Then, very slowly, he reached out a small hand and pressed his fingers against Michael's chest. Michael's heart stopped. Faith whispered, lips shaping the truth for him. "He's saying he needs you." Michael covered his son's hand with his own, tears breaking free. "Then I'm yours," he whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Liam's breathing steadied. For the first time in months, maybe years, the boy wasn't alone. The father wasn't drowning, and the house wasn't cold. Later, that afternoon, Michael walked down the long hallway with Faith at his side. Liam nestled between them securely, holding both their hands with small, fragile fingers. Mrs. Hollis was gone. Her room had been emptied, her presence erased from the house like a stain wiped clean. Michael had called his attorney. He had called security. There would be consequences, real ones. But right now, none of that mattered. Right now, the only thing he cared about was the small boy between them, walking tentatively but freely. They returned to the living room, where the light was softer. Faith knelt and tapped the carpet gently. Tap, tap, tap. Liam tapped back. Michael watched the exchange like someone witnessing a miracle. He sat on the couch, voice quiet. "Faith, what you did today, I can't repay." She shook her head. "You don't owe me anything." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I owe you my son." Faith's breath caught. Michael held her gaze, sincerity raw and vulnerable. "I thought I was losing him, but you saw him when the rest of us didn't." Faith lowered her eyes. "I just saw a child in pain. That's more than anyone else did," he whispered. Before the moment could deepen, Liam tugged on her sleeve again. He pointed at Faith, then at Michael, then intertwined his own fingers. Faith's breath hitched. "Liam, what are you saying?" Michael leaned closer, confused. "What does that mean?" Liam repeated the gesture, pointing at the two of them, then lacing his small fingers together. Faith felt the meaning bloom slowly in her chest. "He's saying," her voice softened, cracking, "that we make him feel safe together." Michael inhaled sharply. Liam looked at them both, eyes fragile, hopeful, wounded, brave. Faith felt tears rise. Michael's voice was barely audible. "Then together, we'll heal him." Liam nodded, pressing both their hands to his small chest. And for the first time in that mansion's long, silent grief, three hearts beat in harmony. Liam held their hands against his chest with such fragile determination that Faith felt something tighten beneath her ribs, a tenderness she'd never expected, a calling she had never asked for but felt designed to answer. Michael swallowed hard, watching his son, watching Faith, watching a connection he didn't understand but desperately needed. After a moment, Liam let go. He didn't step away, didn't shrink back. He just breathed, slow, steady, like each inhale was learning how to be safe again. Faith offered him a smile. "You did so well," she whispered, shaping every syllable with care so he could read her lips. Liam's cheeks flushed pink at the praise. Michael almost laughed, a soft, disbelieving exhale. "He likes when you say that." Faith blushed faintly. "He deserves to hear it." Michael's expression softened into something warm and unfamiliar. "Then, maybe I should learn how to say it too." Faith's eyes met his. "He'll feel it, even if he doesn't hear it." Michael nodded slowly, a man finally beginning to understand the kind of father his son needed him to be. A new rhythm. The day took on a different rhythm, the kind shaped not by fear or silence, but by tentative hope. For the first time, the house didn't feel like a mausoleum. It felt like a place where breath could live. Michael stayed close, observing quietly, asking Faith questions in a voice that betrayed how deeply he wanted to get this right. What does it mean when he taps like that? Should I approach him slowly or just sit and wait? Do you think he's hungry now? Or tired? Faith answered each question with patience, never making him feel foolish. Just be near him, let him come to you at his pace. And Michael listened. He tried so hard that Faith's chest warmed every time she looked at him. The first laugh. Later in the afternoon, they brought Liam to the sunroom, a bright, warm space that had probably once been beautiful before grief dimmed it. Faith spread a soft blanket on the floor and sat down with Liam, placing a few toys nearby. Small wooden animals, a set of colored blocks, a simple puzzle. Liam approached cautiously, then sank onto the blanket beside her. He touched her sleeve again, his new grounding gesture, then reached for a wooden giraffe. Faith smiled. Do you like animals? Liam's eyes brightened faintly. He lifted the giraffe, touched it to her hand, then placed it carefully on her lap, as if offering it. Michael stood a few feet away, leaning against the wall, afraid to intrude but unable to look away. You can sit too, Faith said gently, glancing at him. Michael blinked. I don't want to overwhelm him. You won't, she assured. Your presence isn't the problem. The world was too loud for him. But you were just quiet. Michael inhaled shakily. Then he lowered himself onto the opposite side of the blanket, moving slowly. Liam tensed for a split second, but then he didn't retreat. Michael's breath left him in relief. Faith beamed at Liam. See? He just wants to be close. Michael nodded, his voice thick. I'm right here, buddy. Something incredible happened then. Liam picked up the giraffe again, looked at his father, and pushed the toy across the blanket, toward Michael. Michael froze. Faith's hand rose to her mouth in shock. Liam tapped the floor softly with one finger. Tap, tap, urging him. Michael swallowed hard and picked up the toy with trembling fingers. Hi, giraffe, he whispered shakily. And then, a small, breathy sound escaped Liam. A sound so faint Faith almost didn't hear it. But she saw it. His lips parted. His eyes crinkled. His shoulders shook in the tiniest, softest, most miraculous laugh. A silent laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. Faith's heart melted. She cupped her hand over her mouth, tears welling. Michael's heart shattered into light. His eyes filled instantly. He laughed. Faith nodded, whispering, You made him laugh. Michael pressed a fist to his mouth, overwhelmed. I haven't seen him do that since... His voice broke. Since before she died. Liam reached toward the giraffe again, elated by the reaction, and tapped it against Michael's knee. Faith laughed softly, covering her trembling smile. Michael wiped his face quickly, inhaling deeply. Okay, we can do this. Faith rested her hand near Liam's. You already are. The meal around lunchtime. Faith noticed something surprising. Liam tugged her sleeve and pointed toward the kitchen. Faith blinked. Are you hungry? Liam nodded. Michael's jaw dropped. He hasn't asked for food in days. Faith rose gently, extending a hand. Liam took it immediately. They walked together to the kitchen, Michael following with the stunned expression of a man watching the impossible happen before his eyes. Arturo turned around, nearly dropping a ladle. Well, hello there, Liam startled. Arturo's voice was deep and unexpectedly loud, but Faith placed a hand between his shoulder blades in a calming gesture. It's okay. Arturo is kind. Arturo softened his expression immediately, lowering his voice. Hey, buddy, want something to eat? Liam looked up at Faith for guidance. She knelt. You choose, she mouthed. Liam hesitated, then pointed at the fruit bowl. Michael nearly choked. He hasn't eaten fruit in months. Arturo smiled. Fruit it is. He placed a few slices of soft pear on a small plate. Faith sat with Liam at the table, watching him carefully examine the fruit. He touched the slice, hesitated, then lifted it to his mouth. Michael held his breath. Liam took a bite, then another. Faith's eyes widened in disbelief. Good job, she whispered, pride shining through every word. Michael's hand covered his mouth. He looked like he wanted to cry all over again. Arturo whispered to Michael, voice thick. Sir, your house is healing. Michael nodded. Because of her. Faith overheard it, but didn't respond. She focused entirely on Liam, on the miracle happening piece by piece. A soft evening by evening, the house had a pulse again. The staff moved with less fear. The lights seemed warmer. The tension no longer hung from the ceiling like cobwebs. Faith brought Liam to the living room as the day dimmed. She sat beside him on the couch while he played quietly with his blocks. Michael stood near the fireplace, watching them, occasionally adding a block to the growing tower. Once, their hands brushed accidentally. Michael froze. Faith's breath caught. Neither pulled away immediately. Liam noticed and smiled. Faith blushed and looked down. Michael looked away, clearing his throat softly. The moment lingered, gentle and shy. Nightfall approaches. As night approached, Liam's energy faded. Faith carried him upstairs. His arms looped loosely around her neck. Michael followed, silent but close, watching every small movement. In Liam's room, Faith laid him gently on his bed. He reached for her sleeve again, and she leaned in. "I'm not going far," she whispered. He touched her cheek lightly. Michael's breath hitched at the tenderness. Faith turned to Michael softly. "He needs consistency tonight." Michael nodded quickly. "I'll stay with him. But could you stay nearby?" Faith smiled. "Of course." Liam touched his heart, then pointed at both of them. Faith felt tears rise. Michael's voice broke. "We're here, buddy. Both of us." Faith sat beside the bed. Michael sat on the other side. Liam drifted to sleep between them. Safe, peaceful, loved. For the first time since his wife died, Michael wasn't alone with his grief. For the first time since losing his voice to fear, Liam wasn't alone in the dark. For the first time in her life, Faith wasn't invisible. They were becoming something together. Something fragile. Something tender. Something that felt a lot like family. The room was quiet in a way it had never been before. Not the cold, echoing silence that had haunted the Davenport mansion for so long. Not the broken quiet of suppressed cries or muffled fear. This was something else. Warm quiet. Gentle quiet. The kind that wrapped itself around tired hearts like a blanket. Liam slept soundly, his small hand resting near Faith's knee. His breathing was deeper, steadier, anchored not by fear but by safety, by presence. Michael watched him with such softness that it almost hurt Faith to look at him. He wasn't the stone-locked bachelor rumored in city gossip, nor the ruthless businessman people whispered about. He was just a father, a hurting, imperfect, exhausted father who loved his son more than his own breath. Faith shifted slightly, adjusting the blanket over Liam. Her movement was small, but Michael noticed. His eyes flicked to her, and when their gazes met, everything between them tightened into a single, fragile string. "Thank you," he whispered. Faith shook her head gently. "You don't have to thank me." Michael's shoulders dropped, his expression filled with a quiet ache. "I do. I don't even know how to put it into words." Faith looked at Liam instead of him, because looking at Michael made something warm swell in her chest. He did the hard part. He trusted again. Michael swallowed. "He trusted you." Faith hesitated before answering. "He trusted your presence too." Michael's breath caught just slightly. They sat in silence a moment longer, until Michael spoke again, this time softer, more vulnerable. "Faith, when you said earlier that I was hurting too," Faith looked up slowly. "You were right," he murmured. "But no one has said that to me. Not once. Not the doctors. Not the therapists. Not my staff. They only see the billionaire who's supposed to fix everything with a signature." Faith's voice was almost a whisper. "I didn't see the billionaire." Michael's eyes softened in a way that made her heart stutter. "What did you see?" Faith hesitated. She wanted to choose her words carefully, truthfully, but gently. "I saw a father," she whispered. "I saw a man trying not to drown in grief while trying to learn how to hold on to the only piece of his wife he has left." Michael looked away sharply, jaw tightening, breath trembling as if she had cracked open a door he had braced shut for a year. "I couldn't save her," he whispered. Faith's chest tightened. "I know. I tried everything. I paid every specialist. I flew her everywhere. I studied every treatment. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. But in the end," his voice broke, "she still slipped through my hands." Faith reached out instinctively but hesitated, her hand hovering inches from his. Touch was sacred. She didn't want to overstep. Michael saw the movement. He closed the distance himself, gently placing his hand under hers on the mattress, not gripping, not pulling, just touching, seeking steady ground the way Liam sought Faith's sleeve. Faith didn't move her hand away. "You didn't fail her," she whispered. voice trembling. You loved her, and you've kept that love alive in Liam, even if it took time for you to see it. Michael blinked hard, tears gathering but not falling. I tried to keep everything together, the company, the house, Liam's care, but every day I felt like I was losing pieces of myself, and losing him. Faith shook her head. You didn't lose him. You just couldn't hear him through your own pain. Michael inhaled sharply, like the truth hurt but healed. I want to be better, he confessed, for him and for me. Faith smiled softly. You already are being better, Michael. Michael closed his eyes, exhaling slow. Faith realized that hearing his name from her lips made his shoulders relax. When he opened his eyes again, there was something new in them, something raw and honest. Admiration, gratitude, a tenderness he wasn't used to showing anyone. Faith, he murmured, I don't want today to be the only day you help us. I want you here, with us, as long as Liam needs. Faith swallowed. I'll stay. Michael's voice grew quieter. Even if it gets hard. Faith glanced at Liam's sleeping form. Especially then. Michael exhaled a shaky breath, as if relieved in a way he didn't know how to express. He leaned back slightly, but his hand remained near hers, as though letting go would unravel everything today had rebuilt. Liam shifted in his sleep, rolling closer to Michael. His head rested lightly against his father's thigh. Michael froze, wonder filling his face. He hasn't come to me like this since. He couldn't finish. Faith nodded. He feels safe. Michael's jaw trembled, emotion too strong for words. Faith rose quietly. I'll get him some warm milk. It might help him sleep through the night. Michael reached out, not grabbing but reflexively, almost afraid she'd disappear the moment she stood. Faith paused. I'm coming right back. Michael nodded, embarrassed but grateful. Okay. Faith stepped out of the room. A new quiet downstairs. The house was still. The staff moved lightly, whispering, not out of fear but respect. Something had changed. Faith could feel it in the floors, walls, the very air. The ghost of grief no longer stalked every corridor. She heated the milk on the stove, stirring gently, and though she didn't hear footsteps, she felt someone watching. She turned. Michael was in the doorway. He looked tired, bone-tired, but different, lighter, like curing a shadow. I didn't want you to go far, he said softly. Faith's breath caught. I told you I'd come back. He nodded, leaning on the doorframe. I know. His voice cracked. I didn't want to sit with everything I'm feeling alone. Faith placed the spoon down and faced him fully. You're not alone anymore. Michael's chest rose sharply. He nodded once, slowly, like her words were a rope he had just grabbed in deep water. They returned upstairs together. Back in the nursery, Faith settled onto the bed, offering the warm milk in a small cup. Liam stirred, eyes fluttering open. When he saw Faith and then Michael, his small shoulders relaxed again. Faith lifted the cup. Try? Liam nodded and took a slow sip. Michael watched him as if witnessing a miracle. After a few minutes, Liam nestled back into the pillow. This time, when sleep came, he reached out. Not for Faith, not for Michael, but for both. One hand on her sleeve, the other on his father's shirt. Faith's eyes filled. Michael stared at their son's tiny fingers bridging them, his voice barely a whisper. He's choosing both of us. Faith nodded. He trusts you. Michael swallowed, his face softening. He trusts you more. Faith looked down. That's because I saw the fear. Michael looked at her with an intensity that scared and warmed her at once. No, it's because you loved him before you knew him. Faith felt the words like a tremor through her entire body. Michael leaned back in the chair beside the bed, exhaustion pulling at him. Faith remained seated on the edge of the mattress, eyes on Liam. A comfortable silence settled over the room. Michael's voice came softly in the dim light. Faith, after everything today, I'm afraid to fall asleep. Faith's brow furrowed gently. Why? Michael's eyes met hers, raw and open. Because if I close my eyes, I'm afraid this will all disappear. Faith shook her head softly. It won't. Michael swallowed. Promise. Faith reached across the small distance and placed her hand lightly over his. I promise. Michael's breath shook. He stared at their joined hands, then at her, and for a moment, short, quiet, alive, the world softened around them. The nursery glowed with soft lamplight, the shadows no longer menacing but gentle, like the room itself was finally learning how to exhale. Liam slept deeply between them, one hand on Michael's shirt, one hand on Faith's sleeve, a small, quiet bridge that neither dared disturb. Faith kept her hand loosely over Michael's, offering warmth without pressure. His fingers didn't move, didn't tighten, but they didn't pull away either. He stared at their hands for a long time, as if trying to understand how something so small could make him feel something so enormous. After a while, he spoke, quietly, as though afraid to break the peace. "Faith," he murmured, "do you know what scares me most?" Faith shook her head gently. "What?" "That he'll forget how to trust me," Michael whispered, "that I waited too long to be what he needed." His jaw tightened, shame flickering across his face. "When my wife died, I felt like the world was balanced on one thread, and the moment she left, everything fell, and I wasn't strong enough to pick it back up." Faith looked at him softly, speaking just above a whisper. "You weren't supposed to carry everything alone." Michael's breath hitched. "But I did, and I shut him out without meaning to. I thought if I just fixed life around him, therapy, structure, staff, then maybe he wouldn't notice how broken I was." Faith's eyes shimmered. "He didn't need you perfect. He just needed you present." Michael's eyes closed for a moment, pain rippling across his features. When they opened again, they were wet. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that." Faith smiled gently. "Maybe I needed to say it." They fell quiet again, but it wasn't awkward. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was warm, shared, honest. Liam shifted in his sleep, rolling slightly toward Michael, hand gripping his father's shirt tighter. Michael froze for an instant, then slowly, carefully, he reached out and stroked his son's hair. Faith saw the emotion flicker across his face. Grief, love, disbelief, longing, all tangled together. "He loves you," she whispered. "I don't know why," Michael said honestly. Faith shook her head. "Children don't love because we earn it. They love because they feel us." He looked at her, breath trembling. "Do you really think he feels me?" "I know he does," Faith whispered. "Just now. Just look at him." Michael looked down at his sleeping son, tears spilling silently. "He came back to me," he murmured, almost to himself. Faith nodded. "Yes, but not alone. You came back to him too." Michael's breath hitched again. His hand, still beneath hers, turned slightly, just enough that their fingers brushed. Faith felt warmth creep up her throat. She didn't pull away, but she also didn't move closer. Just enough, just this, just quiet closeness. For the first time in years, Michael Davenport let himself lean back into the chair and breathe, the house that learned to feel again. As the hours passed, Faith moved quietly, adjusting pillows and straightening blankets, checking on Liam's breathing. Michael watched her with an intensity softened by exhaustion and something like admiration. She wasn't loud. She wasn't intrusive. She wasn't forcing anything. She simply belonged. Later, in the faint light of early dawn, Liam stirred. His eyelids fluttered open, and for the briefest second, panic tensed his little body. His instinctive reaction to waking in darkness. Faith saw it immediately. She leaned forward and tapped the mattress near him. Tap, tap, tap. "I'm here." Liam blinked, body relaxing. He reached for her sleeve, then looked around, noticing Michael on the other side. His eyes softened. He tapped twice on the blanket. Michael leaned in, voice gentle. "I'm here too, buddy." Liam's small mouth lifted in a silent, sleepy smile. Faith's chest swelled at the sight. Michael rubbed Liam's shoulder lightly. "Are you hungry?" Liam sat up slowly, still waking. He looked at Faith for guidance. She smiled. "Do you want breakfast?" He nodded. Michael grinned, an expression that looked foreign on him, but beautiful. "Then let's get breakfast." Faith carried Liam downstairs, his arms looped around her neck. Michael followed, watching the two of them with something warm and aching in his eyes. Arturo nearly dropped a bowl when he saw them. "Look at you. Hungry already?" Liam nodded shyly. Faith sat him gently on a stool, adjusting the cushion beneath him. Michael ruffled his son's hair, awkward, hesitant, tender. Liam leaned into the touch. Michael nearly broke down right there. A quiet conversation. After breakfast, when Liam was playing with a soft plush elephant in the living room, Faith stepped onto the patio to shake a blanket. Michael followed her. "Faith," he said softly. She turned. "Yes?" He hesitated. His eyes softened with gratitude and uncertainty. "You've changed everything in less than a day." Faith shook her head. Liam changed everything. I just listened. Michael took a slow breath. No, you saw what no one else saw. You heard what no one else heard. You cared when it wasn't your responsibility. You saved him. His voice cracked. You saved me too. Faith looked away, cheeks warming. I just did what anyone would have done. Michael stepped closer. Not too close, but enough that his warmth brushed her in the cold morning air. Faith, no one else did. Her breath caught. Michael looked at her for a long, quiet moment, eyes searching, soft, grateful. I want you here, in this house, in our lives, not just as staff. Faith's heart pounded. Michael, he shook his head quickly. Not as anything inappropriate, not as anything rushed. He exhaled shakily. I don't want to lose the person who finally helped us breathe again. Faith felt her throat tighten. Liam feels safe with you, Michael continued. I feel safe with you. Faith's lips parted in surprise. Michael swallowed. Please, stay. Faith lowered her eyes, trying to steady her breath. Something warm, something delicate and new, unfolded in the space between them. Before she could respond, a small hand slipped between them. Liam. He looked up at them both with quiet, sleepy eyes. He tapped his fingers together, his version of a question. Faith knelt. What do you need, sweetheart? Liam looked from Faith to Michael, from Michael to Faith. Then he placed one tiny hand on each of theirs. Michael exhaled shakily. Faith's chest filled with warmth. Liam tugged gently, as if trying to bring their hands closer, and something inside Michael broke into a quiet smile. Faith felt her cheeks heat. Michael whispered, He wants us together. Faith couldn't speak. Michael's voice softened. Maybe he knows something we're just starting to understand. Faith looked up at him, slowly, shyly. Michael held her gaze, gentle, vulnerable, hopeful. Then Liam pressed both of their hands to his chest again. A family forming, not by blood, not by roles, not by expectation, but by choice, by healing, by kindness, by love that didn't yet have a name, but was growing anyway. Liam held their hands to his chest with quiet insistence, as if trying to anchor them together. Father on one side, Faith on the other, himself right in the center. A tiny heartbeat thumped beneath their joined palms. Fragile, brave, hopeful. Faith felt that heartbeat vibrate through her fingers. Michael felt it shake something deep inside him that had been numb for far too long. When Liam finally released them, he looked up with a tiny, determined nod as if saying, You two, stay. Don't drift away. I need both of you. Then he wrapped his arms around their forearms and pulled them closer into a tiny, clumsy hug. Faith's breath caught. Michael's eyes glistened. They slowly leaned in, forming the quietest, softest embrace, a triangle of warmth in a house that had known too much cold. It lasted only moments, but something shifted inside all three of them. Foundations, walls, hearts. A slow morning filled with firsts. The morning unfolded into small, tender miracles. Liam followed Faith from room to room as she tidied, occasionally tapping her knee for reassurance. Michael walked with them, unsure where to stand, unsure what to do with his hands, unsure of everything, but trying, always trying. Faith noticed the way Liam looked at his father with quiet hope. She noticed how Michael softened every time Liam reached for him. She noticed how these two were slowly circling each other, scared but wanting connection. In the living room, Liam sat between them on the floor. He built a tower of blocks and pointed for Michael to add one. Michael did, carefully. Then Liam pointed for Faith to add one too. The three of them built an entire tower like that, block by block, moment by moment, connection by connection. When the final block wobbled dangerously on top, Liam froze, then let out a silent puff of laughter. A real laugh. His shoulders shook with it. Faith laughed softly too. Michael stared at him like witnessing a miracle. His mother loved block towers. Michael whispered without thinking. She used to say they were little lessons in trying again. Faith's heart softened. She sounds like she was very kind. She was, Michael murmured. You remind me of her. Faith looked down, her breath catching. I'm not. You're gentle, he said quietly. You see the things everyone else steps over. You listen with your whole heart. She used to do that. Faith glanced up at him, surprised, flustered, touched. I'm honored you think that. Michael didn't reply. He didn't need to. The softness in his expression said enough. The walk outside later. Faith suggested a walk outside. The winter air was crisp. The sky pale blue. Liam hesitated near the door, old fear flaring instinctively. Faith knelt. "We'll stay with you." Michael crouched beside her. "I won't let go of your hand, I promise." Liam swallowed, then reached out, taking both their hands at once. They walked through the garden slowly, careful of the cold stones. For the first time in months, sunshine touched Liam's face without him shrinking away. He lifted his head. He blinked at the sky. He reached both hands up toward the sunlight as if feeling it with his skin. Faith smiled. "He's greeting the day." Michael's jaw tightened emotionally. "He hasn't asked to go outside and I can't remember how long." Faith reached out and gently tapped Liam's wrist. Tap, tap, tap. "You're doing so well." Liam answered her rhythm, eyes softening. Michael whispered, "He's blossoming because of you." Faith touched her heart. "He's blossoming because someone finally listened, Michael." He held her gaze, something warm and unspoken passing between them. Lunch that didn't end in tears. At lunch, Liam ate almost half his small bowl of rice and vegetables. He tapped Faith's knee when he wanted more water. He reached for Michael's arm twice. Michael looked like he might cry from relief each time. Arturo leaned whisper close to Faith. "I don't know what magic you brought into this house, but don't you dare leave." Faith laughed softly, shaking her head. "It's not magic, it's kindness." Arturo winked. "Either way, we'll take it." Michael overheard, and his eyes softened even more. The afternoon shadow. But no healing journey is perfect. Later that afternoon, Faith noticed Liam growing restless. He tapped more quickly, more anxiously. He kept glancing toward the staircase, then clinging to Faith's sleeve, then hiding behind her when a door closed too loudly. Michael noticed too. "Something's wrong." Faith nodded. "He's remembering. Trauma comes back when the body relaxes." Michael's breath shook. "What do we do?" Faith knelt in front of Liam and tapped slowly. Tap, tap, tap. "I'm here." Liam answered quickly. Too quickly. Tap, 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 tap. "Fear, fear, fear." Faith placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Show me." Liam's eyes darted toward the stairs, toward the upper hallway, toward the closet. Michael stiffened. "He wants to go back." Faith swallowed. "He wants to face it, but not alone." Michael's voice cracked. "I'll go with him. I have to." Faith nodded. "Then let's go together." They climbed the stairs, slowly, carefully. Liam's small hand squeezed both of theirs, and when they reached the nursery hallway, his breathing hitched but he didn't stop. He stepped toward the closet, and Faith realized this wasn't fear. This was courage trying to be born. Facing the shadow, Faith knelt beside him. "Do you want the door open?" Liam nodded, then shook his head, then nodded again, conflicted but determined. Michael knelt too, voice trembling. "Whatever happened here, it won't ever happen again." Liam touched the closet door with trembling fingers. Faith whispered, "We're right here." Michael whispered, "I'm not leaving you." Together, slowly, Liam pushed the closet door open. Inside was nothing new, no dark figure, no danger, but he stared at the corner where the metal restraint had been. His breath came fast, panic coiling, memories tightening. Then, he stepped inside. Michael gasped, "Liam." But Liam wasn't going inside to hide. He was going inside to reclaim the space. Faith touched Michael's arm. "Let him. He's choosing." Liam crouched in the corner, just for a moment. His hands trembled, his eyes closed. Then he stood again. He walked out. He tapped his father's chest, hard. Michael's breath broke. That was bravery," he whispered. "That was, my boy." Faith touched Liam's shoulder gently. "You did it." Liam tapped her sleeve once and then Michael's shirt, then tapped both their hands together. Faith understood instantly. "He wants us to know," she whispered, choking back tears. He didn't survive this alone. Michael gathered his son into a trembling embrace. Faith wrapped her arms around them both. For the first time, the closet didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a conquered ghost, a chapter closing, a wound beginning to heal. The evening after Courage that night, Liam fell asleep between them again. Peaceful, warm, safe. Michael brushed his son's hair gently. "He's stronger than both of us." Faith smiled softly. "He always was. He just needed a hand to hold." Michael looked at her. Long, tender, grateful, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them. Not employer and employee, not billionaire and maid, just two people pulled together by the love of a child. Michael whispered, "Faith, I don't think I've ever been this grateful for anyone in my life." Faith's breath caught. "You don't owe me anything." Michael shook his head slowly. "No, but I feel something. Something I haven't felt in a very long time." Faith's heart pounded gently, softly like it had learned a new rhythm. Michael looked down for a moment, then back at her with trembling honesty. "You make me feel less alone." Faith couldn't speak. She didn't need to. Liam stirred slightly and placed one small hand on both of theirs again, and the moment sealed itself. Quiet, warm, fragile, perfect. The music room felt different now. Not haunted, not hollow, not heavy with the echoes of yesterday. It felt alive, like a place where something had finally begun to mend. Liam sat on the floor with his plush elephant, tapping gently on its belly as if teaching it the secret rhythm that had become his language. When he saw Faith and Michael return together, his entire face softened. His shoulders relaxed. He placed the elephant on his lap and tapped once against the floor. Faith knelt beside him. "We're here," she mouthed softly. Liam leaned into her, then reached a hand toward Michael, inviting him closer. Michael sank onto the rug, his long legs folding awkwardly, his eyes warm and full of gratitude. "Okay, buddy," he whispered, even though Liam couldn't hear. "All three of us." Liam crawled a little closer. Curious, brave, safe. Faith placed her hand on the rug. Michael did the same. Liam placed his small hand on top of theirs. It was so simple, so quiet, so small, and it changed everything. The first step toward tomorrow. The rest of the afternoon moved in a gentle rhythm, Michael playing soft notes on the piano every now and then, letting Liam feel the vibrations. Faith guiding Liam's hands through simple signs, not strict, not formal, just enough to show him that communication didn't have to hurt. Liam going back and forth between them, checking they were both still there, both still staying. Every time he checked, they smiled. Every time they smiled, he relaxed. Every time he relaxed, the house breathed a little easier. Faith could feel it, the mansion losing its cold edges, its polished emptiness. A warmth began to seep through the walls, subtle but inevitable. Michael felt it too. Several times he just looked at her, longer than he meant to, softer than he realized, like he wasn't just seeing the woman who saved his child, but the woman who had given him a second chance too. A quiet dinner. When the sun began to set, Arturo brought up dinner, simple food, mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, soft chicken, safe textures, gentle flavors. Faith helped Liam into a chair, adjusting a small cushion behind him. Michael sat on the other side, hands steadying a cup of warm milk. Liam took a bite, then another. Nothing dramatic. No tears, no shaking, just steady eating, trusting they would not disappear. Arturo peeked inside, eyes shimmering. "This house hasn't seen a peaceful dinner in a long time." Michael nodded, voice thick. "It's long overdue." Faith caught Michael's gaze. He gave her a grateful, quiet smile. She felt her breath stutter. Bath and bedtime. The bedtime routine had always been a battlefield, screaming, resistance, refusal. But tonight, Faith made it simple. Warm water, soft towels, gentle hands. Michael watched in awe as Liam allowed Faith to wash his hair, leaning forward to avoid water in his eyes. The trust in that simple act made Michael cover his mouth, overwhelmed. When they brought Liam back to his bedroom, he hesitated at the doorway, old fear flickering. Faith knelt immediately. "You don't sleep alone," she mouthed. Liam blinked, then nodded. Faith sat on the floor beside his bed. Michael sat in the chair near the corner. Their presence softened the room into something safe. Liam climbed into bed, pulling his plush elephant with him. He watched them with half-closed eyes, exhausted but peaceful. Then he did something neither of them expected. He reached gently into the air and traced 3 simple letters with his finger. F-A-I. Faith's breath caught in her throat. Michael's eyes widened, voice cracking. "He spelled your name." Liam traced another letter. T. Faith's heart broke open. Michael's voice trembled. "Faith, he loves you." Liam wasn't finished. He reached toward Michael, traced the letter D. Michael's breath stopped. Then Liam reached toward Faith again and traced a tiny M. "Father." Mother, family. Faith covered her mouth, tears spilling freely. Michael's entire face collapsed with emotion. He stood, slowly, carefully, kneeling beside the bed. "Buddy," he whispered, even though his voice trembled too much for words. "We're not leaving you, ever again." Faith reached across the bed, taking Liam's tiny hand gently. Michael reached too. Their hands met, over Liam's, and for the first time, Liam's tapping stopped completely. He didn't need it. He didn't need to ask for help. He had them, all at once, together, a house restored. After Liam fell asleep, Faith and Michael stepped quietly into the hallway. The light was dim, the house was soft, and something new lived in the air, something fragile, but powerful. Michael leaned against the wall, rubbing a tired hand over his face. "Faith, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to," she whispered. He shook his head slowly. "You changed him. You changed me. You changed everything." Faith looked down shyly. "He changed me too." Michael breathed out a laugh, quiet, disbelieving, grateful. "You're remarkable." Faith's cheeks warmed. "I'm just trying." "No," Michael said softly, stepping closer, not invading her space, but inviting her into his. "You're healing us." Faith didn't move, didn't run, didn't shrink. She lifted her gaze. Michael's voice grew even softer. "I don't want this to end when the sun comes up tomorrow." Faith took a breath. "It won't." His shoulders relaxed. She wasn't making a promise she couldn't keep. She wasn't filling a void with empty comfort. She meant it. Michael's voice turned quiet, reverent. "Thank you for choosing to stay." Faith's lips parted in a small, shy smile. "Thank you for trusting me." Michael returned the smile, subtle, tender, vulnerable. Then Liam stirred in the room behind them and both turned instinctively. Faith smiled. "Go. He needs you." Michael nodded. "Come with me." Faith's breath caught. Michael added, quietly, "He needs both of us." So they went. Together. The end. A hope reborn. The Davenport mansion did not change overnight. Grief takes time. Healing takes gentleness. Love takes patience. But this was the night everything shifted. A frightened boy found safety. A broken father found hope. An invisible woman found belonging. 3 hearts, once shattered, began to fit together in the quietest, gentlest way. And the story of their new beginning had only just begun.